In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the easy process of installing a SoundTraxx SoundCar decoder into this Blackstone HOn3 reefer. I carefully disassembled the car by using a small screwdriver to pry off the bottom. I then unscrewed both sets of screws from each truck to remove them from the bottom of the car. I needed to fabricate contact wipers for the Blackstone trucks to power the decoder in the car. I reached into my scrap box of KD couplers and pulled out 4 KD coupler box springs from which we will make these power wipers. Using tweezers and my fingers, I bent out the coupler springs, creating what will be power feed wipers. I cut the spring box in half just beyond the punched hole, making 4 wipers, 2 for each truck. I test fit the wipers onto the top of the truck bolsters just to make sure everything would fit into position correctly with good wheel to wiper contact. I soldered very fine stranded wire to each of the wiper pads, and I stuck them on masking tape during this process just to make the soldering a little bit easier. I used contact cement to glue the wipers on top of the truck bolsters. This glue is strong, flexible, and will stick to the Durlin plastic material that the trucks are made from. Here are some close-up photos of the finished truck wiper assemblies. Note I had good metal contact with all 4 wheels to the wipers on each truck. I followed the instructions that came with the SoundCar decoder and the CurrentKeeper and laid all of the components out, including the 35 by 16 millimeter speaker that the SoundCar floor is designed to fit, along with the speaker gasket and the shrink tubing. All of these items are available from SoundTraxx. After installing both trucks back onto the freight car, I pulled the power feed wires through the holes just beyond the coupler pockets in the freight car's floor. This worked out really well. I soldered the wires from both trucks together, right side and left side, ready to be soldered to the decoder's feed wires. Using the laser cut speaker gasket, I pulled off the peel and stick sides and attached this to the freight car's floor. Then I mounted the speaker to the self-adhesive gasket. I added shrink tubing to the SoundCar's decoder, red and black wire leads, before soldering the truck pickup wires. I soldered wire leads right side red and left side black as per the instructions. Then I pulled the shrink tubing over the exposed solder joint. I used the heat of the soldering iron to shrink the tubing tight around the joint. This process went fast. As you can see here, I am soldering on the black wire, the left side pickup wires, pulling the shrink wrap tubing over the solder joint and shrinking it with the soldering tip in close proximity without actually touching the plastic. I then soldered the 2 purple speaker wires from the decoder to each of the speaker solder pads. Turning my attention to the CurrentKeeper, I plugged this into the connector on the end of the SoundCar decoder. This will keep the sound going even if I hit a spot on my track work where there is no power at all. I applied 2-sided sticky tape to the decoder. Then I press fit this up into the shell of the car, sticking the decoder up to the roof area. I then reassembled the car's floor to the shell, careful not pinching any of the wires while I was putting this together. And now I was ready to test run the SoundCar on the layout. So now it's time to test our SoundCar decoder just to make sure that our installation and everything is correct. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to back up number 461 to the freight car to pick up the car. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wave a magnet over the top of the SoundCar decoder so that it can consist and locate number 461. I push F8 on the throttle 4 times. And now the car should be consisted and will run with the locomotive with sounds that match the speed of the locomotive as we go. Now we can further test that our CurrentKeeper is working by picking up the freight car and hear that the sounds are still playing in the freight car. Now I'm going to disconnect the freight car from the locomotive, from the consist. And in order to do that, what I want to do is wave a magnet over the top of the car. You hear the brakes engage. And when the locomotive pulls away, there will be no clickety-clack sound from the freight car.